All right, all right, all right. Sagittarius, welcome. Hello, and welcome to Kai Chi Alchemy. You can call me Katchi. This is a space of love, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the cosmos today, whenever you're finding this here. I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thanks for co-creating community with me. Thank you for those likes, shares, comments, subscribes, any kind of interaction and support you throw the way of this channel. I always greatly appreciate that as it helps me to expand my reach and help more people. Today's message will be a collective message for a Sagittarius collective. Excuse me. So it will not resonate with everybody, so please only take what resonates with you personally and leave the rest. If we ever talk about opposites and extremes and gender things, and you can always feel free to swap roles and positions and ends of spectrums as you see fit, as it fits to your situation. Never force anything to fit, never make anything fit. Anything that taps into your gut knowing today, that is something that is giving you confirmation and clarity on something that you already know, right? So there's nothing new for you here, essentially. Just new ways of thinking about the same things that you already intuitively feel to be true and correct deep inside of yourself, right? I feel called to take a really long, extra meditation and grounding here at the beginning. So I will have you take a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, taking a deep inhale, inhaling into your belly first and then your chest, holding at the top if you'd like. And if you feel called, you may also hold at the bottom. Whew. Today I got a whole lot of written downloads for the Sagittarius collective, which was interesting. It's been a while since I've had any scrying and research and notes of that type. So I'm just going to read off from here a little bit before we get too much into the cards. Right now, whenever you're seeing this video, it's a timeless collective message that may resonate with you in the moment that you're finding it, but it may have some elements that tie back to when I am filming right now, which is at the end of Aries season, the beginning of Taurus season of 2026. And right now, I am getting a really strong fixed sign download around Sagittarius. Sagittarius is not a fixed sign. I believe it's a mutable sign, correct? But there may be some significance to prominent placements, transits, or energies and external people in your life. Or even just themes in relation to the fixed signs affecting your life, hitting your life, interacting with your life. I got a quote from Audre Lorde. If you've been here a while, you know we're not always on the best of terms, so I thought this was a cool moment of, let's see, a cool moment of when you accept your differences, when you become exclusive, when you become deeply, develop a deep understanding of your values, of your beliefs, of your priorities, of who you are, that security, that inner security actually increases your appreciation of those who are different from yourself and allows you to more easily encourage and lift up and pour into others who are different from yourself, because you know and you trust and respect yourself to be able to set boundaries that keep you within the bounds of that self-trust and that self-respect, so that you can feel safe to explore connections and relationship and communication and interaction with external energies, because you have that security and that coherence within yourself. So it's actually like the more secure you are and the more boundaries that you have, the more kind and generous and tolerant you are able to be, not just by force and mentally, but energetically, emotionally. There's just more space when you're coming from a strong place internally. And the quote that came through was, "I am my best work, a series of roadmaps, reports, recipes, doodles, and prayers from the front lines." There's a lot coming through in this Aries to Taurus season. I was getting the visual of like somebody throwing soil on a fire, and like putting out a forest fire also. But we're softening, we're grounding something intense, right? Right at this moment. And you're being asked not to push harder, not to grip tighter, not to prove yourself more, but align with the spirit of soft power that lives within you. Dissolving patterns of control, old ways of doing things, old ways of understanding things, old beliefs that are no longer serving you or others. Maybe they never did, but you're seeing things differently now. And you're being asked not to push harder because you've already tried that in so many ways. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And you are capable and you are powerful, but you're most powerful when you're in alignment with your highest self, when you're in alignment with God, when you're in alignment with Spirit, when you're in alignment with the greatest and highest good of all. And that's going to speed up or improve the results that you get from applying your wisdom and your will. So we've tried to make things happen. We've tried to rush things. We've tried to make certain timelines, like we've tried to choose certain timelines that we want to make happen and override our intuition. We've tried to harden ourselves. We've tried to do things just to feel safe. Sometimes we can feel safe when we aren't actually safe though, right? And how do we remedy that? By becoming more attuned, more embodied, more receptive. Which is why I was talking about coming into this Taurus season as I happen to be filming the Sagittarius reading. It's about coming home to yourself, coming home to your body, coming home to the ground, coming home to the earth. And that is soft power. The power of gravity, the power of earth, the power of like goddess energy. Soft power is knowing when to move, when to wait. It's trusting presence instead of performing for outcomes. It is natural. It is naturally aligned. It is a process with natural authority that it carries within it. It has a history, a backbone, a lineage of sacrifice and proof in the pudding. Like, you allow things to come into alignment instead of forcing them into place. Sometimes it's very important to create an image and a visual, and by any means necessary, go after that. But I have seen that power of manifestation misused deeply when there's misalignment internally, and so you don't actually understand the motivation behind the image that you're creating. So when you get there and you create it, you have had a whole bunch of side effects that you weren't anticipating, and that sometimes you don't feel good about. So you have to stay mindful of that as you're moving along, as you're doing your little Sagittarian adventuring thing. Quiet or soft power is choosing yourself in a quiet way, in a consistent way, in a way that where you don't need external validation to feel secure in those beliefs, in those actions, in that wisdom. This is power that does not need to raise its voice because it already knows the intuitive answer. It already knows its worth, its value. It knows who it is, what it wants, what its value is. It's like a prayer. Instead of asking your parents for permission, stating something with a natural authority, as if it already is. Sagittarius energy is this spiralic energy of going from the center outwards and checking every single star 360 degrees around you, exploring the relationship between where I am and where everything else is, and moving towards that, and having that experience of moving from the inside out, knowing who you are, having that fire and that spiritual fire, that identity, that self-knowledge, that self-concept, that security within yourself, and moving from that place into the rest of the world so that you can be more supportive, be more tolerant, be more curious and open without losing yourself, and without having to fear losing yourself, and without having to defend yourself from others for fear of losing yourself. But an inverted Sagittarian energy is kind of the opposite, where you're looking at all these external sources and referencing it within yourself. Like yourself is just witnessing all of these external people, places, and things, and you're asking for them to define you, if that makes any sense. So you may be seeking opinions and knowledge from all kinds of directions, and you may come to some kind of consensus through that process. But if you are taking in the sum of all these parts and you're taking yourself out of the equation, that may be an issue, and that may be a struggle for this particular Sagittarius collective today, for the person that I'm speaking to today. I was also getting an image of a Viking burial. It's got a little bit of the four elements coming together, right? So we have the water that carries the boat with the deceased, and then we have the flaming arrow. The arrow is made out of a stone. The arrow is also set aflame, and so it's like taking this fire and air energy and setting fire to the old, setting fire to the deceased in a way where it's able to, the past is able to transmute through the power of fire, transmute the physical reality, the physical elements, to transmute that matter, to transmute the physical, material, day-to-day aspects of your experience and turn it into something that is nourishing, that is going to be easily funneled and transported by these waterways far and wide to wherever it particularly needs to go. And so this takes something that's sad and traumatic and frustrating and difficult and whatever that death process is like for people, and transforms it into something widely beneficial and productive and effective and positive. Let this be the month where you find softness, where you soften and realize that softness was never the opposite of power. The opposite of power is control. The opposite of power is fear. The opposite of power is insecurity. So Aries season, going into Taurus season, there's a softening of all the fire signs I'm feeling right now. Learning how to go with the flow and go with the seasons. And then we got a whole lot about the word subjugate, which is something I thought I understood, and I think I do, but I was feeling very called to explore the collective understanding of this word. So sometimes I will utilize AI and things like that to look into it a little bit. So I did some of that, and I did some other research, and I did some scrying. I used to occasionally be seduced by the idea that this person, this energy, is actually worthy of my services, of my energy, and all of the investment and all of the energy that I gave into something in the past when I didn't quite feel that it was the right decision or that it was going to be utilized well, turned into, what it could be. And putting energy somewhere where it's just going to be squandered, and you think that is the problem. The problem is that I'm putting this energy into the wrong place, into the wrong person's hands. And if I could just find that one energy and that one person and that one organization, that whatever, and if I could put all of my time, energy, love, attention into this direction, then it would all be worth it, and it would turn all of my efforts into gold. And it's not really justified, this right leader. Like, it's not about finding the right leader and submitting to the right leader. It's about finding a leader that champions free will, that leads by example, because anything else is not actually true leadership, is not actually true power, is not actually true security, is not actually true natural authority. And those things will always fall down eventually, sooner or later, because they're built on faulty foundations. But if you find a leader that honors and respects the necessity, the vitality in the concept of allowing alignment, of allowing free will, of allowing this removal of force that allows this kind of natural evolution and this natural alignment process to take place. I mean, you have to be willing to take your hand off the wheel because you are submitted to the truth. The only leader who is a true leader is submitted to the truth in a way where you can look to them to help you get inspired, to turn more towards the truth, to see it exemplified. And that is natural authority, and that allows you to have the faith in like moving forward and knowing that we're all gonna naturally move in this direction together if we take the obstacles out of the way one by one. And that is a sustainable, true authority. There is no civilization, there is no society that lasts without that type of authority, without the free will, without the natural alignment. And without that, when you're not in a true place of power, when you're in a place of control, in a place of fear, in a place of insecurity, in a place of desperation, that is where this energy of subjugation comes in. So first I had just like from Google, subjugate, transitive verb, to bring under control, especially by military force, conquer, to make subordinate or subject to the dominion of something else, to subdue and bring under the yoke of power or domination, to conquer by force and compel to submit to the government or absolute control of another, to vanquish. I thought it was quite interesting, the mention of military force and the specific mention of submission to the government or absolute control of another. Because what is the government other than submission to a middleman, submission to a sage, like an advisor, a government is somebody saying, we know better than you how this decision should be made because we have it on high authority. We have it, you know, like we've got the connections. We know the right people. We got the real info. We got the real intel. And they put themselves above you. And sometimes that is for good reason and sometimes it is not. But that is kind of the issue, right? Is you're supposed to submit to this force, to this power without informed consent, let's say, right? So military, force, government, one absolute control over the other. I thought it was interesting, it said to bring under the yoke of power or dominion. Because yoke is like union, is like coming together. It can be a good thing. But in order to yoke something, you have to be like equally yoked. You have to unify. Or else, if you aren't perfectly yoked, if you aren't perfectly unified, if you aren't equally balanced, if you aren't full and complete and balanced within yourself, and you come into this yoke of power, that becomes a fixed submission and domination cycle, which doesn't actually produce any of its own light, energy, force, power, anything. It's this energy that gets stuck in a loop. And these two identities fall into submission and domination, which are both broken and I keep hearing impartial, partial. That they're both lacking in wholeness. And some people can say, if you bring together two people, or you bring together a male and a female energy, or you bring together two opposites, that you have a whole. But those two opposites should be composed of the same materials configured in opposing configurations, not 50% of those energies and 50% of those energies filling in for each other. Perhaps we were not whole people in the past, and now we are. There's some arguments to be made for that. I don't know. I know that where we are right now, right here, where I'm sitting right now, we are in that space where we all have all these energies within us, and we must find the balance of them to be able to create anything sustainable, right? Subjugate means to bring under control or domination, often by force, making someone or something submissive or subordinate. It originates from the Latin word meaning to yoke, reflecting the idea of imposing control over others. You could also liken this to the process of imposing control over yourself, of utilizing your masculine energy and your feminine energy to create progressive flow within yourself. Understanding the difference between power versus control kind of begins within. Ideally, that works real well, you know. Subjugate means to bring under control or domination, often through force repeating. Yeah, I wrote it again. That happened a couple times while I was making this. You may feel like you're repeating yourself, or somebody that you're dealing with has been repeating themselves. Maybe it doesn't make any more sense the more you say it. Maybe it already made sense. Maybe it's not about the thing that they're saying. Maybe they're just saying something to say something. Maybe they're just distracting, filling in space, making noise. I got the bull sacrifice, the Taurus, the Hierophant, 222, 555, 1221, persistence, reliability. Maybe somebody or something has been really reliant upon you, or you have been really reliant upon it. You've been really persistent and stubborn in this, or they have been really persistent and stubborn in trying to grab your horns and direct your attention. Etymology, the origin of subjugate is derived from the Latin subjugare, where sub means under, and jugum means yoke, under yoke, right? Subjugation. And you want, when you find yoke, you want to submit your mind to your heart. And that's a true sustainable yoke. And that is what allows you to develop real sustainable connections with others. It says in historical context, in ancient Rome, subjugation often involved conquered soldiers passing under an ox yoke as a sign of submission. Some more Taurian energy. Yoke is something people often talk about: union, the lovers, soulmates, spiritual union. And then Taurus is related to the Hierophant card. We got a Hierophant card here out on the table already. Totally unrelated, different time when this came through. But yeah, I think that the Hierophant is the root of this entire reading. It's about figuring out where you belong, where to integrate, where to yoke, what to submit to, how to go about that process, and what the difference between power and control is practically in your life on a day-to-day basis right now. There was something that was coming through, and I was gonna set it to the side, and I left my pen, so I missed it. Maybe keep a pen and a notepad nearby you. You might have a lot of new downloads coming through over the next little couple of weeks as you settle more into your body, as you become more grounded and your mind is able to process from a more integrated place. It also says usage. Oh, I remember what the thing was I said to the side. It said sub means under, right? A lot of times when people talk about submission and domination, and they talk about top and bottom and under and over and stuff, and in my personal opinion, there's lots of play that we can do to work out stuff within our psyches with extremes and playing out extremes. And that is a game, and that is a transmutational process that can be really powerful and good and awesome. But the kind of union that I think of in marriage, in the way where two people can become one person, where two energies can become one person, where two organizations can integrate and become one thing, it requires this energy of switching. It requires this energy of giving and receiving. It requires this energy of having the lived experience that you have, and then back, and then back, and then having empathy, living in other people's shoes literally sometimes, taking turns with different roles and different experiences. I'm getting kind of some Saturnalia right now, if you know, you know. Military context: to defeat a people or country and rule them without granting freedom. This is the way that we used to approach slavery. We would go and conquer some group of people, some land, some structure, some institution, and we would break their will, we would defeat them, and then the people within that system, we would tell them what to do, and we would use them as servants, and we would think of it as we're granting you your life, so you should be grateful, and in return of your benevolent conquerors, we will allow you to serve us, and that was where this servitude came from, was this idea that I'm better, I'm stronger, I beat you, I subjugated you, I forced you to change course, and if you want me to stop doing that or soften that a little bit, then I'm gonna need you to fall into this sycophancy. Because servitude and slavery, just because you're in that position doesn't necessarily mean that they've broken your will, that they've broken anything, that they've determined anything. They've just set a boundary, if you don't go along with this, if you don't serve us the way we say, then there's going to be XYZ consequences. But people can still be in those circumstances and have refused to go down without a fight, and that was their martyrdom, and that was, you know, those stories have been useful in one way or another throughout history. They've been very powerful, you know. So you can never truly lose your freedom, but people will try to force you to believe in this subjugation. It's really a choice, because nobody actually truly has power over you. They only have power over what they have power over. They only have power over their boundaries. They only have power over the things they have direct material control over. They may have some ability to like influence and manipulate things, but they don't have power over you, of your mind, your heart, your soul. This is your domain. This is your space of love. If you want to create a home, if you want to create a business, if you want to create a community, a space of love, the place you start is by creating that space of love within yourself, by creating a fortress around and a sanctuary within your mind, heart, body, spirit. Becoming your own princess, your own tower, your own knight, your own dragon. It says, in social context, to treat one's own wishes or beliefs as less important than those of others. So yeah, you may have been subjugating yourself in a social context, treating your wishes or beliefs as less important than those of others. Maybe trying to make sure everybody else is heard before you are. But then perhaps surrounding yourself with people that don't quite respect you for who you are, because you're starting with them and not with yourself. Like I was talking about, that Sagittarius shining from within and radiating out to everybody and everything, versus the Sagittarius that is like an energy vampire, vacuum, black hole thing. And it's up to you, based off of how you view yourself and interact with those around you. You want to be this bard, you want to go out and explore and integrate a wide array of viewpoints and philosophies and ways of going about things, then you need a home base. You need a strong home base. Motherland is necessary and adventure is mandatory, is what I heard from Spirit for Sagittarius. Motherland is necessary, adventure is mandatory. Lead by example. And then also it said examples. The emperor's armies subjugated the surrounding lands, a people subjugated by invaders. This is very pertinent globally right now. You probably can figure out for yourself what I mean by that, and for how that relates to you personally, emotionally. I was getting a lot about the Scorpio Taurus axis, the Leo Aquarius axis, the fixed signs that may be personal to you, about personal individual energies, might be about big themes. Synonyms for subjugate are conquer, dominate, suppress, subdue. So we don't want any of that, right? But even within ourselves, we don't ever want to conquer, dominate, suppress, or subdue the parts of ourselves that we want to manage and help. You know, like your inner child and like your protector. You don't want to be shaming your shadows. You don't want to be disowning parts of yourself. That creates demons. That creates hidden enemies. That creates self-delusion. That creates issues. You don't want that. You want to treat all the parts of yourself the same way that you want to treat everybody else, the same way that you want everybody to treat yourself. You don't always want to treat people the way you want to be treated, and vice versa. That's not always the best thing. But in this particular circumstance. It's like, if you want an energy of domination, if you want to attract that energy into your life and see reflections of that around you, then you should try to dominate your emotions. You should try to suppress your feelings. You should try to use the intuitive hits that you have and the things that you feel as information just to be utilized for their logical value, and then everything else stripped from it and hidden away in a shadow. That's not going to be useful to you in the end. It's always all about integration, and if you put off integrating any part of yourself, it's gonna just increase the intensity of the experience of resolving that and integrating it in the future. And I bet you're tired. You want to move forward, right? In the past position here, we have Queen of Swords and Nine of Swords. This is like really intense, direct. This is boundary setting, but this is also like mental anguish and having all of this overthinking and drama going on because of these external circumstances, and you're this close to the Ten of Swords. You're almost at the end. You're almost unalived, and then the Queen of Swords comes in with that 10th sword, picks it up out of the ground and says, nope, we're not doing this. Goodbye. Goodbye. On this side of the table, I pulled Sweet Orange, Go, Rodeo. On the other side of the table, I pulled Hearse, Sit, 999. And also Friends and Missing. Missing friends. But this is like the external world. This is fun. This is social. This is jovial. But something cut here. Something was not healthy. Something was not good. There was a loop, a cycle. I'm almost getting like a trap here with the Nine of Swords and then backing out of the Ten of Swords. It's like you almost stepped in a trap and you saw it and you said, hey, I see this. This is what this is. What is this? Rhetorical question. Excuse me. And in the present position, we have the Hierophant and the Knight of Cups. So right now, you're really thinking about institutions, power structures, authority, submission, and domination, and giving and receiving and community. And you're reflecting upon this structure that you've been dealing with in the recent past in this Knight of Cups energy, presenting as like sweet, vulnerable, open, authentic, not just well-intentioned, but secure in kind of a healthy inner child way, right? In this like healthy, healed Leo kind of energy. It's a romantic. It's a heart on my sleeve. Okay? But from this I'm getting that this can be part of the power structure, or this can be part of the attempt of domination, as by mimicking, as by performing, as by studying certain people that like seem to get certain results and then trying to copy and paste that behavior to get the same results out of people. But the thing that has changed, the variable that has changed, is your energy is not the same as the energy of the person that you're studying, right? Or maybe this is somebody that you're dealing with. So there may be some kind of like deception going on, some kind of delusion going on. This could even be buying your own BS kind of energy in some ways, but it's because of some belief system. So you're currently examining your belief systems and how it puts you in a position of vulnerability, maybe not in such a good way, in a social, emotional, maybe even love context. So you're trying to like not throw the baby out with the bathwater is the phrase I'm getting with this. So things were really lively, almost too much. Friends, go, rodeo, sweet orange is like very vibrant. But it cut you. And you're slowing down to heal this cut. And in the near future, I am getting this kind of like hermit energy, right? Missing, hearse, sit, 999. I'm getting like go into a cave. I'm also, in the future position, I see 2 of Wands and 10 of Wands, which is like a lot of fire energy in the future. But it's also like, I'm looking towards my future, I'm dedicated, I'm looking out at the options, the possibilities, I'm visualizing, I'm planning, I'm seeing, where I'm headed. But also, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. Okay? So it's time for you to rest. Subjugation, let's see. Understanding the term subjugate helps in grasping its implications in both historical contexts where it often relates to power dynamics and control. Subjugation specifically refers to the acts of bringing someone under control or domination, often through force or coercion, while other forms of control may not involve such overt oppression and can include influence or authority without direct subjugation. Additionally, subjugation often implies loss of autonomy and freedom, whereas other forms of control might allow for some degree of agency, right? So I think a lot of times when people use the term soft power, they're talking about basically controlling people in a way that allows for some degree of agency. That it's like the inmates are running the asylum. It's like you give people the illusion of control over their political leaders. And you can say, you have freedom and you have autonomy. And there's a way to argue that. But at the end of the day, is that really true for everybody? Forms of control may not involve repeating. Yeah, the repeating kept happening. Stop hitting yourself, belligerence, inversion. There may be somebody that's just like really hard to talk to because the way they talk to themselves is really harsh. And they don't know another way. They don't see how harsh they're being because they deny and diminish and dismiss what they deserve. They're not soft with themselves. They do not understand power. They're trying to control themselves. They're trying to subjugate parts of themselves. And so if you feel like somebody's trying to subjugate or humble or coerce you, trying to strip you of power, autonomy, freedom, out of a space of insecurity, then you need to accept that they speak to themselves harshly and that they have the free will to continue to do that. And at the end of the day, that's what they're doing. They're choosing to speak to themselves harshly. If they wanted to change, they would change. And if they're treating themselves harshly and they're not able to avoid treating others harshly as a result, the only remedy you have is to focus even more on how you speak to yourself, how you treat yourself, how you try to dominate parts of yourself instead of coming into integration and alignment and communion and connection and the kind of yoke that is dynamic, that is not stuck, that is not in an infinite loop that requires outside sources of energy, but the kind of yoke that is a free energy machine in and of itself. So within the idea of a culture dominating another culture, when I was younger, I knew that there was a time before written history where women, or at least the concept of woman, ruled and controlled society and civilization. And perhaps that came from a positive place, perhaps it came from a positive intention, perhaps it began in a positive way. But anything that becomes imbalanced, anything that tries to subjugate another's free will in the name of justice and righteousness and goodness and progress, that's not actually sustainable. And so you're always going to have this boomerang back and forth, you know, those perpetual motion balls, until you come into a true yoke. A true yoke is all the motion and complete stillness. It's not back and forth. It's not dualistic. It's not reactionary. It moves. And moves like a Taurus in motion. Not like a flatland Taurus. Like a true Taurus that you could feel, that you could hold in your hand, that you can sense from 17 dimensions. And this yoke, this is creativity. This is the Christ. This is the atom. This is the cross. This is where infinite energy comes from. This is the perpetual motion machine. And this is the family structure. It's a natural yoke with an inherent honoring of free will and natural authority. In the biblical, world, they talk about the metaphor of God loving his children so much that he wishes for them only to love him in return by their own free will. Not because he is where they came from and is in some way almost more powerful than them and could compel them to love him. Even though he could compel them to love him, he chooses not to compel him, to compel. So if we want to love others in a true, elevated way, in a godly way, in a way where we are coming from our highest selves, then we want to honor them like those children whose process and experience we honor and respect. Even though we may believe that we know better than they do, it is essential, it is imperative that they go through that process and learn for themselves. We all need that. And it looks different for all of us. And we can barely understand what we need for ourselves. We really shouldn't be sticking our fingers where they don't belong and trying to dominate, control, subjugate, overly influence those around us, especially when we don't have full control over ourselves. So we went from mother worship, and then we reacted to that, and we went far into father worship, and we're seeing how that goes. And we could go into an extreme if we wanted to keep that pattern locked. But I think that we're somewhere else. I think that we're ready to try something different. Religious leadership creates this environment where something can be rational within the framework and irrational outside the framework. This can be scientism, this can be the church, this can be any and all religious structures. This could be like cults and like podcasters and like all kinds of things like that. okay? So when we create a framework where we can reference within the framework what is right and wrong and good and bad, then it's self-reinforcing. And the truth is not self-reinforcing in that way, because you can't understand the truth before you go through the experience of uncovering the truth. So you can't have the framework down and then reference all of your experiences to that framework. Because if you're referencing a framework that you already think that you have complete knowledge and control over, you know that you're misguided. You know that you're going off of incomplete notes. Like, you're gonna have problems. And then I had this download a while ago, and I didn't share it because it seemed real controversial, but it was coming through so strong again for you guys. Who are you empowering? Who are you enabling? And then I got Magha Nakshatra is one of the 27 lunar constellations in Vedic astrology associated with authority, dignity, and ancestral pride. Magha is spelled M-A-G-H-A. Magha Nakshatra. Do you know how you make the word Magha? You can take M-A-G-A, you can take M-A-H-A, and you squish them together. It freaked me the heck out the first time I realized this. It's because it makes me realize it may be because of inherent background patterns and things just happen and that's so interesting, or there are people in high positions of power with long range, long-term thinking abilities, planning abilities, that have an understanding and respect for the historical context and power and role of astrology and like occult sciences and things. And if you believe in that sort of thing, where people in positions of power within the crumbling structures are giving you a little wink, like, this is why we're doing this. It was all part of the plan. I just thought that was real interesting. But whether or not you believe in that sort of thing, Magha Nakshatra is ruled by the planet Ketu. That's the head or the tail of the snake. I'm going to have to look into that. But it also says, and it is located in the sign of Leo, symbolizing qualities of leadership and respect for tradition. Okay, so there can be positive and negative sides of this, right? Here, let me pull this up real quick, because it just kept going with very interesting, very interesting information. I feel like the Wi-Fi and the internet and the data everywhere I have been on every device has been very challenged over the last week or two. I know there's a lot of reasons that could be, but it's just an interesting observation that I've had. I'm not sure why this is loading so slow and funny, so I'm just gonna look it up again. Magha Nakshatra. Right. Okay, so we'll keep going here. Spiritual possession. Begins with obsession. Thoughts besieged, but body still functions. Day-to-day still functions. Number 2, infestation. When a place or institution is held. Number 3, oppression. When the body begins to suffer. Number 4, possession. When the entity speaks through the personality. I was getting for the 4 stages of possession that the stage 1 of obsession is the mind. When something takes root, when an idea takes root mentally, like I was saying, podcasters, the church, any mimetic concept that isn't itself sourced. And you have this obsession, this thought, this mental image that you get locked into. There's this infestation that grows when you think about it so much. You manifest a place or an institution being held. This reminds me kind of when my mother was offered a important position in the Clinton Global Initiative. And I immediately felt that this organization is clearly a way of giving validation and attention and energy and props to people who probably deserve it and help them to network and stuff. But it's because we on high have this authority to say you're good, you're a good girl, you're a good boy, and now that I've patted you on the head and I've given you this position of power within my greater power structure, you are subservient to me, you are submissive to me, you're trusting in me, and that can be misused and utilized in improper ways. And it's not even to say that there's anything necessarily wrong with any particular political leaders. I'm just saying the entire concept of outsourcing your authority and your source of validation, especially in an earthly way like that, can be really damaging and problematic. It's kind of how I felt when my father told me that he was gonna go on to lifelong thyroid medication. That's a decision that you can make, and if you want to make that decision, then go for it. But it is a buying into, a feeding into a system where you get a benefit by feeding into something that props up, empowers, enables somebody else. And sometimes that's more okay than other times, and you have to use your discernment there, right? But it's always problematic when you put that trust into this external source above yourself because of a desperation energy, a fear energy, an insecurity energy, a control energy. So this is obsession, infestation, followed by oppression. Once you have become absorbed by the system and it has taken over your mind and it has taken over your heart, then it starts to impact your body in one way or the other. And if it's a negative possession, then you begin to suffer. There are arguments to be made that there's such a thing as positive possession, but that's not really what we're talking about here, right? And then step 4, possession, when the entity speaks through the person directly. And I've absolutely seen this happen on multiple occasions, and it is impossible to sit there and say, this is not you, this is not real, this is not honest, because in that moment, in that situation, that person is fully identified with this infestation, with this possession, with this energy that has taken root within them. It has gone from their mind to their heart to their body, right to their spirit, right to their will. They don't see themselves anymore. You're not talking to them anymore. Nobody's home anymore. And if you try to tell somebody something like this, nobody's home anymore. In fact, you're giving information to the possessor to help it hide, maneuver, manipulate. So when you sense that sort of thing, you just kind of have to protect yourself. You just kind of have to back away. You cannot get too close to things when they're already that far gone, right? But what you can do is recognize those other steps in other people, but especially within yourself. That's always how you help other people and influence other people, is by mastering yourself. So you're mastering your thoughts, keeping an eye on the things that you develop obsession over, and breaking down, analyzing where that comes from so you can see it from a little bit more of a grounded place. Seeing when people give you positions or places within their systems and their institutions, and whether that feels good for the right reasons, coming from the right place. Assessing when your body's speaking to you and telling you, this is not good for you, this does not feel right, right? There's a certain religion that is not mono or polytheistic. They believe in many powers, many spirits, but you and me, we're the best ones, we're the good ones. You help me out, I'll help you out, and we're gonna conquer all these other ones. And that religion has heavily influenced, in my opinion, all of the Abrahamic religions in the churches and the mosques and the big structures. But I believe that Christ, or your higher self, is your true self, is your center, and is your reference point to help you always remember whether or not you are aligning with, feeding into, becoming possessed by the lowercase gods of competition and of strife. Because there are religions, powerful, ancient religions, that believe in an ethos of competition. And also in vengeance. And so I don't care what tradition you come from, what institution you belong to, forgiveness is the only belief structure which has true sustainability and integration built into it. There's nothing else. And that is why the family structure is the only structure to submit to that is a natural yoke with an inherent honoring of free will and natural authority. Because it's heart-based, because it's mother-centered, because it's mother-baby centered, because the heart of how we feel about children when we are in a balanced place, in a healed inner child place, we want to empower them. We want to see them surpass us. We want to and family is all about forgiveness, because it's all about unconditional love, and you cannot have family without having unconditional love and without having forgiveness. Sometimes you'll have family of one kind or another that does not live the practice of forgiveness, uses the wrong words or the wrong practices, has the right intentions. So there's another big push for you developing an even deeper sense of discernment. Don't rely on the sages, don't rely on the advisors, the intermediaries, the middlemen. Even in my channel here, I am the kind of reader where I intend to assist and empower other individuals into developing their own intuition and discernment and relationship with themselves, so that you can get your answers for yourself and never develop any kind of dependency on some kind of external authority figure. Because sometimes that external authority figure is a positive and they deserve that, but you can't be judging that properly. You can't know that if you aren't your own internal authority. You can't reference it. You can't know that for sure. It's just blind faith. And some people believe blind faith can be useful. I don't particularly, because you can't believe anything in a truly integrated way that's not just bypassing and force of will and subjugation. if it's not grounded in your experience, in your conscience, in your feelings, in your experiences, in your beliefs. Like, it comes from you. And you can and should consider others, integrate others, and work with others from the inside out. From the inside out. And there can be positive leadership, like there can be positive aspects of royalty, thrones, leadership, respect for tradition, respect for your ancestors. Like, there are these positive aspects here. This is from the Vedic tradition, the Magha Nakshatra. And it aligns so seriously, so beautifully with things that you might expect. Okay, so it says ruling planet K2 signifies detachment, occult knowledge, and ancestral karma. So I think that is the tail. I will have to double check. It also says ruling deity, the Patrice, ancestors, forefathers, emphasizing ancestral pride, legacy. This can become nationalism. This can become holy wars, right? The symbol is a royal throne representing power, status, and leadership. It's in Leo, okay? So positive leadership is useful. Positive leadership is important. But a true balanced Leo energy, in my opinion, is that Christ energy. Is that self-leadership energy. Is that I know who I am so much that I shine from the inside out and I just radiate onto everybody and everything around me like the sun. And I'm not doing it for them, and I'm not like performing for them. I'm not doing a light show for them. I'm just shining the way I shine. I'm just doing what I do. I'm just believing what I believe, being who I am, existing. And that's impacting the people around me, right? But that is not what a lot of this K2, Leo, Patrice, Royal Throne, Magha, Nakshatra, Magha, Maha energy, that is not the embodiment that is coming through as. It's coming from a place, for a lot of these people, from a place of control, from a place of fear, from a place of insecurity, from a place of domination, from a desire to conquer externally. From a place of a desire to mask and hide lack of natural authority. Is to take away and hide away aspects that don't look so good and then paint a face in ways that aren't real, you know, to add things that aren't real and to take away things that are real, to distort the image. Sign Leo, nature, Rakshasa, demonic with Tamas, Rajas, Gunas. That's like earthy. It's like oil, salty, fatty, fried food. It's like grounding. Gender female. Right, so this is about motherland. This is about lineage. This is an important thing that we need to start like paying more attention to, that we've become really disconnected from the power and the importance of lineage, of ancestry, of the, you know, intergenerational trauma that impacts us all today in our interpersonal relationships, in our socioeconomic realities. Magha natives' personality, they have a majestic demeanor, are hard workers, maintaining strong morals. They value tradition and are deeply connected to their lineage. Profession, drawn to positions of power, government, politics, management. Strengths, ambitious, loyal, generous, experts in their fields. Weaknesses, can be arrogant, inflexible, overly focused on status or ancestral ego. Like, I am so cool because I come from this family, right? Like, do you know who my grandmother is? I'm so important. And I mean, sometimes that's important to give props to our ancestors. And sometimes where we come from does impact how we show up and who we are and what we have to offer in some ways. But these things can always be misused and inverted, as they are, as they do. It says, 4 quarters. Pada 1, Aries, strong leadership, ambition, high energy. Pada 2, Taurus, highly ambitious, focused on luxury and image. Pada 3, Gemini, intellectual, artistic, and communicative. Pada 4, Cancer, emotionally tied to family, tradition, and ancestor worship. Significance and remedy. Magha is considered part of the Gandamula Nakshatra at the junction of water and fire signs, which often requires specialized birth rituals, Shanti Puja, to manage its intense energy. The core lesson is to use their immense power and authority for the benefit of others, acting as a rightful guardian rather than a dictator. The core lesson is to use their immense power and authority for the benefit of others, acting as a rightful guardian rather than a dictator. I might even leave that in the community tabs. That's so significant. There was so much in here I wanted to get into, but I thought that was really the crux of it. Is every energy has a most inverted, awful manifestation, and there is another side of it. So when we see this energy coming in and it's really ugly, we don't want to run away from that energy. We don't want to run away, throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to say, what is the lighter aspect of this? What is the more sustainable, loving expression of this energy? And the more we can take our own power and choose to put our attention, put our energy, put our time, put our resources towards the lighter expression of the energy that we already see expressed in the world externally in disturbing and disheartening ways, the more we are going to be able to influence the whole in the best way that we know how, in the best way that we can. And this is interesting where it speaks on the quarters, because it says Pada 1 is Aries, Pada 2 Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. We just came out of Aries season, okay? Strong leadership, ambition, high energy. It's been a really intense month. I'm sure you would agree if you are watching this in real time. Coming into Pada 2, the way this energy unfolds, coming into a place of high ambition, focus on luxury and image. This can be directed in a dark, creepy way, as it has and will be. But I would say for you, the lighter aspect, well, okay, in the past when we were in Aries, you were taking that high energy, that ambition, that leadership, directing it towards your goals, your understanding of things, what you want to add to the world, and channeling it there instead of letting it like blow up into drama and issues in your life, right? Moving, getting going. Then now, at this moment when you're watching this, to really move in an ambitious way, to really focus on creating an image of your future that you want, that feels luxurious, that feels good and pleasant to you. You want to focus on these Taurian energies of sinking into your present experience, into your 5 senses, into feeling things, seeing things, sensing things, and enjoying food, taking bubble baths, and like doing somatic workouts. This would be an excellent time for that sort of thing. And coming up pretty soon, we're going to be moving into Gemini season. If you want to help us to transmute this collective Magha Nakshatra energy through the beautiful gifts and blessings that you have as the Sagittarius collective, as we move into Gemini season, there's this Pada 3 of intellectual, artistic, and communicative nature. So after you've become a little bit more grounded and sunk into your senses and really allowed yourself the experience, the pleasure of direct physical sensorial experiences, of letting the mind turn off, of directing your energy into this sensual space, then coming from that grounded place and making a point of reaching out, of connecting, of expressing yourself, of creating artistic endeavors, of communicating truths that bubbled up to the surface while you were in that Taurian energy. And then coming up after Gemini season, for Pada 3, it says emotionally tied to family tradition and ancestor worship. So we went from Aries becoming very clear on what we want to create, who we are, what's working, what's not working, through this intensity, through this energy, through this just getting slapped in the face with what needs to happen, what is happening, moving into from this fire to this earth, like really sinking into our bodies and restoring, nurturing, resting, so that we can look out into the external world again and gather information, connect with people, express and then receive expression, and then mix things together and reconsider. And then once you have made sure that you are opening yourself up to a wide variety of viewpoints from a grounded, stable nervous system kind of space where you also know who you truly are and are able to set those boundaries, that is when I think it's possible to develop these emotional connections and ties to your family traditions and to your ancestors without becoming demonically possessed by forces that do not actually align with your soul, with your spirit, with your conscience. And I think that that is what happens here with people who jump the gun or, use the inverted energies to try to speed up the process. And I see that in a lot of places. I see that in world leaders right now, which kind of affects all of us, right? And they're trying to push ahead with such force, with such coercion, with such intensity, with such a blinding, at all costs mindset, that they've actually blinded themselves to their own true internal motivations, which is blinding them from understanding what the true results of their actions are going to be in the end. And they'll find out. They're gonna see in real time, in the real world. Okay, our music came off here, and I would really like to turn it back on if possible. Interesting. Yeah, there's been a lot of this energy of connection issues and with the internet and that sort of thing. It's giving me kind of Aquarian. So it's almost like, when you're having issues with your device or your Wi-Fi or whatever, you want to disconnect it and then reconnect it. You want to turn it off and then turn it back on. That's kind of this process that we were just outlining, right? Of this transmutation of the Magha Nakshatra energy. is going through that one by one step by one step. Okay. I'm going to pull a couple of cards for y'all. It is 1:25:05 on the clock. Those numbers may be relevant to you in some way, perhaps. And I'm just going to close this because that's what's necessary. So I guess we're in the void space right now, right? We're in the silence. We're in the, I don't know if that's going to be mirrored and reversed for you. Sit. Yes. Let us go with the Light Seers deck for a moment here. And then maybe we'll get y'all, we'll see. Spirit, Freya, Folly, Michael, Mary, please be here with me now. Please allow me to channel for the collective a message in the interest of their greatest and highest good, balanced with that of the collective at large. Please and thank you, thank you, thank you. Whoa. That was a lot. Okay, we have King of Pentacles, Two of Wands coming out there. And that's the second Two of Wands. So you're definitely looking at your future, but like King of Pentacles from a very grounded place, from a very warm, secure, unhurried place. Ace of Pentacles, Knight of Wands. Yeah. Earth, fire, earth, fire, earth, fire. Moving ahead, but moving ahead with integrity, moving ahead with alignment. Direction is more important than speed. You are the archer, right? You are the archer. And if you want to hit the mark, if you want to avoid the sin, then you need to spend a lot more time and energy thinking about your shot process and about your inner world, about your mentality, about your nervous system, about your attitude, about your mindset. These are the kinds of things that are going to affect how you hit that target more so than anything that happens right in that moment when you take the shot. The preparation is 9/10 of the process and impacts so much. So you have cut away things that are, preventing that process from unfolding. You are currently reassessing things from a place of kind of questioning authority, questioning the authority of institutions, also questioning the authority of people, places, energies that exhibit this, I'm almost getting like a vulnerable narcissism energy off of this, like a weaponized incompetence. Like people used to accuse me of playing dumb a lot, and I started to realize that the people that say stuff like that to me, they play dumb. And they project that onto me because they think that everybody thinks and operates the way they do, right? And so just because somebody exhibits some kind of like sweet, open, vulnerable, emotional energy, that can be emotional manipulation, and that can be very dangerous. And this can be very cold, very detached, very avoidant and dismissive of your personal experience. It's like, this is the way we do things, period, regardless, right? This is marriage. This is a child. And so this can be true union. This can be a true yoke, a true integration, a true teaming up of equal but opposite forces, a true perpetual motion machine, or it can be a domination loop. It can be a stagnation. It can be stuck. And that's the father and mother energy. That's the mind and heart energy. That's the struggle there. Especially comes through when the mind tries to make the heart submit to the mind. Because that's not a natural, healthy, regenerative way of going about things. It's extractive. It depletes. And that's what this energy of like conquering, coercing, taking away people's freedom and autonomy by trying to convince them that you have the capability to do that, which you don't even actually at the end of the day really. You can put obstacles in people's way, you can set boundaries, you can manipulate things, but you can't change the way that people interpret their own experience, right? And so this is the child and the spirit. And so this can be innocence and vulnerability in a healing, positive way. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? But you also want to be highly discerning and aware and not always giving the benefit of the doubt when there are those types of people around who maybe believe that you're playing dumb, so to speak. You know what I mean? Okay, I am going to pull from the Herbal Tarot, and then I think we're gonna maybe get an oracle card for you, and I'll let y'all go. It's been quite a long one. Thank you for joining me here today, Sagittarius. Spirit, what does the person I am connecting with today need to hear before I leave them today? Four of Swords, Mullion, Judgment, Golden Seal, Nine of Wands, Bayberry Bark, Angelica, the Sun. Yeah, this is interesting because remember there was like a spectrum, and this was like the external, the warm, the exciting, a lot going on, but internally you brought in your Swords energy. You brought in that Swords energy because you made a judgment, or Spirit made a judgment, something made a judgment, because you were exhausted, you were depleted, you were going in a direction that was going to take you down. Like, you were becoming depleted. So even though there's all this bright, sunny energy on the external side here, internally, it was snuffing out your fire, snuffing out your ember. So you had to take that ember, pack it up, and bring it somewhere safe. And you're still kind of traveling and holding on to that ember right now as you're making this discernment about, this is giving me like super anxious and super avoidant strategies of interacting with people. So being really mindful to only work with people because it makes sense and it's mutually beneficial. Not just because something's presented to you and you want to prove yourself, right? There was some pride going on in here. And that would be useful to address. That would be, you know, it would lead to positive effects for you. So you made that judgment, you're in this space, you're holding your fire, you're keeping your ember going, you're keeping it safe while you're figuring out where to go, what is safe. You don't need to rush about it, you're grounded, but you're focused. You're passionate, but you're rooted. And you're so tired. Isn't there another, oh no, that's 10 of Wands. Yeah, you're so tired right now. That's 9 of Wands. You're going to very soon step into this space of 10 of Wands, where you're going to be so exhausted, so over it, that you can't really overthink anymore. You can't get like caught up in that energy anymore. It's just like, okay, I'm looking at the future now. What's the next step? And it's looking like good things. But it's going to look different for all of you, right? All right. I am going to pull an oracle card, but I'm not sure which one I want to do yet. I had to pee starting like 2 minutes ago, and now I'm realizing when I don't take care of my body like that, I generally don't perform as well as I would otherwise. So again, what is the advice? Prioritize taking care of yourself and knowing who you are, prioritize knowing who you are, then taking care of yourself, then connecting with a wide variety of perspectives, and then connecting in with your family traditions, your institutions, your government, your leadership, your family, your ancestry. And if you do it in that order, you should get better results for the person that I'm speaking to today. Could I please get a Osho Tarot Oracle for the Sagittarius Collective? This is the Sorrow card in this deck. And I'm pretty sure that this is equivalent to the Hermit, which is very appropriate. In the near future, you're coming into this space of like this internal sunshine. It's gonna be dark around you because you need to be discerning and protective. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world, and if you want to create and protect this ember, this sun, you want to build this fire up to be able to create something in the world that you want to see built, and you want to start attracting lights to you, you need the protection. You need a little bit of Hermit energy. That might be a little bit, that might be a lot. You might go out a lot, you might be a super introvert, and so the way that manifests may be on a spectrum for you. But prioritizing self-care, alone time, reflection is going to be really important moving into the future here as you generate a really, really, really rock solid image of the future that you're looking to align with moving forward here. And I'm looking forward to looking into what that's going to look like for you moving forward. But right now, it's a lot about healing. It's a lot about integrating and processing the past. And for some of that, it's just kind of like sit back and breathe through it, and you'll get there when you get there. I also had, I think, one more page on here that I didn't look at for some reason. So check things, cross your I's, dot your T's. I kind of felt like Mercury retrograde has come through in its average energy reversed lately. Like when we're out of Mercury retrograde, I feel much more of the struggle with communication and frustrations and things not lining up. And then when we're in it, not so much. But maybe that's a perspective shift thing. When you're expecting things to go wrong, they don't hit you as hard. So that's kind of something you're developing right now, is to like expect the expected, expect the unexpected, expect everything, expect anything. Like, be ready for anything. I got some Virgo energy, filtering, purifying, decluttering. Spring cleaning could be really useful for you right now. Somatic exercises could be really useful for you right now. Anything that gets you into your ventral vagal nervous system activation, out of that fight or flight or that dorsal vagal nervous system activation, so that you can connect with people from a place of trust and love and forgiveness once you've vetted them properly, right? So sinking into the Taurus season this year, I think that my main advice to leave you here with is that I was getting that 5 senses grounding practice. And I had to actually look it up because I haven't used it in a long time, but I might now because it's a good one. So if you're ever feeling like you need to get settled in your body, you need to break out of some sort of loop, you feel like you are feeling the desire to dominate, or you're feeling the desire to submit, or any of that stuff, and you want to really sink into Taurus energy this month, I'm going to ask you to find 5 things that you can see. A candle, a sage stick, a couch, a unicorn pillow, a yoga mat, a butterfly. Was that 6? 6 senses? 4 things you can feel. My nose, the table, my hair, my Maya Astro card deck. 3 things you can hear. That squeaky noise from some of the electrical plugs or my Wi-Fi. I hear the pitter-patter of the rain outside. I hear some birds chirping in the distance. 2 things that you smell. I smell my almond stevia soda. I smell the wet rain from outside my patio door. And taste. I taste the residue from my peppermint tooth powder. Okay? So there's some very practical, grounded advice for you there after a very long, cerebral, over-the-top exploration of some very heady things. I know that that's not always your thing, but perhaps for this group today it is. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope that you have a beautiful day. I will see you next time for our next reading. We'll see if it's a read aloud or a zodiac reading or a general collective reading. We'll see how that comes through. But yeah, love you so much. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I'll see you next time.